entry costs and exit costs in home ownership are so big that you want to be owning for 7, 8, ideally 10, 15 years so that home ownership is really worth it. Anyone who wants to sell a piece of real estate alone can sell a piece of real estate alone because it's not so difficult to take a couple of pictures and put them on portals. It's about price realization. You do everything right, you sell it for 1.1. You do everything wrong, you sell it for 800K. For a 1 million apartment, the brochure should make buyers feel, oh my God, this is worth 1.2. They go and visit it, and in the end, it's never lying because they'll visit it and they'll know exactly what it is. And all those things, you can do them right, but you're unlikely to do them as right as an agent.
Welcome to Unlocked, the podcast by Swissquote that gives the floor to those who challenge the rules and reinvent their industry. Today, we're diving into a market that resonates with almost everyone, but remains opaque and full of traps: residential real estate. Our guest, Patrice Chauffat, has made transparency his mission, showing how every single day in Switzerland, homeowners unknowingly lose hundreds of thousands of francs. We'll look at the hidden pitfalls of selling property, the psychology at play, and practical methods to maximize a transaction. Patrice, welcome to Unlocked.
Hello, Igor.
How are you?
I'm doing really great, and I'm psyched to be here.
You know a lot of things, but specifically about real estate. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, several different things, but they all come from that one root, right? I really have fallen in love with the potential for improving real estate brokerage in Switzerland because I had a track record in management consulting and in sales management. And I discovered the power of incentives. And real estate brokers are just a very poorly incentivized sales force. And so, we're joking about it, right? I'm a lecturer at the University of Applied Sciences in Zurich. I'm an author of a book, and I'm a startupper. It's all the drive of, proving a point and righting a wrong, I guess. And those are all the ingredients, right? But it's all about the salad. It's real estate. It's big money. It's usually the biggest investment that people do in their lives. Selling it is the biggest transaction people do in their lives. And it's got to be better. It's got to be better than the old legacy system where things are very opaque, where agents who get mandated are not very specialized and not properly incentivized and overall very expensive. And you see that out there. Agents don't have a good reputation. They're basically considered a necessary evil, crooks in Porsche Cayenne, right? And I'm always very sad about it because during the 8 years of Bestag, and now we're 14 people and supporting over hundreds of transactions every year, and we work with great real estate agents who are local, hardworking, honest, and bringing great results, but overall a hugely bad image because so many wrong things in this market.
And you could be described as a serial slasher. You've done so many things in your career, and I just wanted to know what drives you to take on so many projects.
Yeah, it's this drive to prove a point and right a wrong. I'm pretty sure there'll be another project one day, but now for the last 8 years, it's really been let's make residential real estate in Switzerland. Let's make it transparent. Let's make the agent choice more specialized so that people get competent agents. Let's change the incentive system so that the agent works for the seller, not for the buyer. And that's that. And I'm going to keep on doing it. The last ingredient, as we talked over lunch, right, is I'm also a passionate father and a loving father of 3 girls. And I guess that's the last slash on my LinkedIn profile. Mm-hmm.
And talking about real estate, why do you say that the real estate market is dysfunctional?
It's dysfunctional because really, when someone sells something, they want to get the best possible price for it. And at Swiss Quote, right, it means I want to sell my Nestle shares and I'm going to be matched with the buyer with the highest price, bidding price, right? It's bid and ask. And if I don't ask anything, I just say, just sell, it's going to come there and it's going to sell it to the person offering the best price. And that's amazing. And it's not like that for apartments and houses. Apartments and houses, it's basically you're going to sell an apartment or a house and it's worth millions, but you're going to sell it at a price that someone that you found is willing to pay. But, I found Tommy and he's willing to pay 800K for my apartment, but maybe Bobby was willing to pay $1 million, but I didn't find him, or my agent didn't find him. Or we found Bobby, but because we asked for 800K and we didn't manage to ask for $1 million from Bobby, Bobby was like, I would have paid $1 million for this apartment, but I got it for 800. So it's about finding the buyer with the highest propensity to pay and negotiating them all the way up. And this takes tremendous preparation, skill, transparency that is mostly absent right now. So opaque, too expensive, not specialized, poorly incentivized, and poor results. So we can do better.
And interesting, in your book, you write that in Switzerland, every day a property sells 100,000 francs below value. How does that happen?
If you look at the numbers, it's about 50,000 open market transactions every year. And on open days, notaries are open 250 days, 200 transactions per day. We would say about 10 of them or 100K below value every day, today and yesterday and tomorrow, because people basically go about it and do all those things wrong because they don't know how to do it. And it's okay because people don't sell so often. Statistically, Swiss people sell 0.7 pieces of real estate in their lifetime. But only a third of the Swiss people are owner. So it translates into 2 transactions per lifetime for the owner class. And those 2 transactions, you're going to do one when you're 32 and you're selling your apartment in town to buy a house in the suburbs because your wife is pregnant with the second baby. I know it's cliche, but that is one pattern. And you're going to sell another one 20 years later when the second of your parent dies and you go and you and your sister go sell your parents' house. And those are 2. And that's pretty much your Swiss owner life. And they don't build up an experience in doing it. And because you don't build up an experience in doing it, what you do for the first time in your life, you're bad at it. You're bad at assessing the value beforehand. You're bad at choosing the agents. Many people just choose on a feeling, the last flyer that was in the mailbox. You're not so savvy regarding the contract. So you're going to just accept a contract where you're going to be eaten up by a clause, like the clause of minimal price or the clause that some discount agents say they want payment of their full commissions after six months, sold or not sold. So there's a number of things that you can do wrong in the setup and wrong in the execution that basically mean if you have something that's worth about $1 million, it's going to sell somewhere between 800 and 1.2. And people don't believe it. People refuse to believe it. They think it's like buying milk at the supermarket. You just go and like, how much? Oh yeah, okay. But a house, you can't flip it and see the price. It's the value that someone is willing to pay for it, and it's very difficult.
So how do you sell it correctly then? If a lot of people do it wrong, how do we do it? Simplified like this, but like
the right way. You get the right price. So you get an evaluation that is so solid beforehand that when you go into the selling and you have an offer, you know instantly whether you say yes or no. Because people who go out there a little bit like this and just sell it, just put it on the market, you'll find out. When they have the first offer, They don't know if it's 80K too low or 120 too high. They don't know. So the yes or no, suddenly at the moment of taking yes or no on your biggest financial transaction, you haven't done the research, which feels a little stupid. So you do a very, very strong valuation beforehand. And we recommend to use the tools that banks use to do the evaluation for mortgages. So there's two leaders in the market. It's Yahtzee and Wüstpartner. So just use both of them, because on average, they're about 10% outside. I'm going to get sued if I say this, but I have to say it's a non-representative sample of the 10,000 of evaluations that we have done, but it's about there. And then get the best local agents to evaluate it, but in a neutral, unbiased way. Because an agent, and this is an interesting topic we haven't broached yet, an agent who knows that you're going to be their client, they undervalue, because it makes their work downstream a lot easier. Oh, you're going to mandate me? Your house is worth 900K. Very good. Oh, we sold in 2 weeks, we sold for 930. Amazing. Actually, it was worth 1 million and you lost 70K, but you're not feeling it. So, and an agent who knows he's in competition is going to overvalue by a lot. So it's the skill of valuing neutrally. And if you have those two head-honest and evaluation and three evaluation from agent, you've got a robust evaluation. That's doing it right. Then the second thing is choosing the agents. You should choose local agents who currently have similar objects for sale and have sold similar objects in the past, because they're going to know how to value, they're going to know how to market, and they're going to know your buyer already. Because if there's 3.5 rooms in Gland for sale, then if you have one for sale as well, they've already seen your buyers. So big advantage. Agent choice, it can be done in a systematic, intelligent way. It's not random pickings. And the last one is change the incentive, change the game, because an agent who earns 3% for a million sale, they don't care if they sell at 900K or 1.1. 27 is 30 is 33. So you need to change the compensation so that a variation in the price, if they perform well, they need to get a lot more money. And if they perform poorly, they need to get a lot less money. So simple example would be, well, for a million, you get 3%, but for any deviation, you're going to be 15% with the deviation. So this is doing it right. If in a couple of words, what would be doing it right?
Of course, if they need more information, I guess you talk about it in your book. But what do you say to people who think that they can sell on their own to save those commission fees you were talking about?
And that's fair. And then, anyone who wants to sell a piece of real estate alone can sell a piece of real estate alone, because it's not so difficult to take a couple of pictures and put them on portals. It's about price realization, right? We were talking, you do everything right, you sell it for 1.1. You do everything wrong, you sell it for 800K or 1.2, 900, right? But the spread is so huge. So make sure you have the absolute best presentation. For a 1 million apartment, the brochure should make buyers feel, oh my God, this is worth 1.2. They go and visit it. And, in the end, it's never lying, because they'll visit it and they'll know exactly what it is. But they will not revise the valuation completely. So this is one of the key aspects, is anchoring. Second thing, it needs to be on the market long enough. Third thing, it needs to be at the right price on the market. So if it's worth $1 million, just list it on the market for $1.05 million. So you have a little bit of negotiation. A buyer wants to have the success of having bargained down, right? And all those things, you can do them right, but you're unlikely to do them as right as an agent who, by the way, already knows your buyer, right? Whereas you don't.
And since I'm talking to an expert and one day I might buy my own place, just wanted to ask you, maybe it's random and maybe it's easy questions that everybody knows, but when buying, you have a lot of questions about, do I have a fixed rate, a variable rate mortgage? How much cash do I put in? How much cash do I need to have? All those questions, can you maybe answer in a simple way, like when you're in the situation of buying, what do you have to do?
Absolute foremost thing. And I have many friends who contact me, it's like, hey, I want to buy this house, this apartment. Is it a good deal? As a rule, entry costs and exit costs in homeownership are so big that you want to be owning for 7, 8, ideally 10, 15 years, so that homeownership's really worth it. Because you save money every year and you get a little bit of appreciation every year, but the costs entering and the costs getting out are so huge. And it's not only brokerage, right? It's also all those admin fees and notaries and moving is not free and all that stuff. So make sure you are buying the right thing. So think about your needs and whether you really want that property. It sounds dumb, but we have clients, and I shouldn't say this, but we have clients who have sold something with us, super happy, to move to another place in the mountains. And 2 years later, they sold in the mountains to go back where they came from. They were not sure that they wanted to live in the mountains. It would have been much cheaper to rent for 2 years in the mountains, to say, actually, we don't want to move to the mountains. So, make sure that what you buy is what you really need. Second thing, be very, very clear with your budget. And we were talking, how much money do I need and so on. You need to have been saving, you need to have done your 3A and entirely shares in Swiss Quote, right? And have done that for a couple of years, so you have a little bit of savings on the side. And be very clear with your financial situation, or yours and your partners. You look at your household income, and because of those rules, right? People get confused by those rules. If I take a mortgage and interest rates were 5%, I would need to be able to pay that plus the maintenance of the house with a third of my income. God, that's so complicated. You can buy a house that's 7 times the household income, give or take, right? 7 times. So you calculate your household income very precisely, and it's 7 times. And then 20% of that you will need as savings. And so we calculate together. It means you need 1.5 times household income as savings that you have either in cash or liquid assets like shares, or in pension savings like Pillar 3, Pillar 2. And that's how it goes. But it matters almost more that you like the object than that you have your financial stuff in order. Because if someone were to do 2 fantastic deals, buying a house 10% below market, but they buy and then they sell 4 years later, and then they buy again and they sell 4 years later, they're financially probably worse off than someone who's just bought and stayed there for 15 years. So buy the right thing. And it also means be aware of what you'll need in 3 years or 4 years. If you're moving and you're buying a house because you have 1 kid, think of how many kids you want to have. It sounds trivial, but you'd be surprised how many people fail at that.
And it's also linked to passion and what you like in life, and I guess real estate is part of what you like as well.
Yeah,
you have to like the place you're in. I should mention as well that this is not an investment advice. Of course, at Swissquote, we have digitalized access to financial markets and also mortgages. But just wanted to talk about your company. Best Tag is also a digitalization of this real estate, right? Can you maybe talk about your work there?
Yes, definitely. So maybe one step back, right? Best Tag is setting up your sale in the best possible way. It's like booking.com for real estate agents. You should go to booking.com before you choose a hotel. You should go to Best Tag before you choose an agent. And we do the valuation, the agent selection, and the contract. So I was adamant about those things. The tech and the digitalization, I think, one aspect that's huge, and we were doing machine learning, which is the 2010s keyword for artificial intelligence. We're doing that 7 years ago to kind of deduplicate listings that we had scraped from the web. Basically, we do a lot of tech to choose the right agent, because we want to be able, and we are able, with a click of a button, to define who are the 3 best agents for any property in Switzerland. And we have a database of everything that's been sold via a real estate portal since 2018. So for each agent, we can say exactly where they're specialized and where they just accepted mandates, because an agent never refuses mandates. We can tell you how long their properties are on the market, if they sell at a nice price per square meter versus the local market benchmark, if they do a lot of price adjustments, if there's many properties that they had listed that then they didn't list anymore and that they were listed 2 weeks later with another agent. So you know a lot of things on past performance. And so this is, for us, it's the tech that's like, wow, because our clients were like, but how are you going to find the best 3 agents in my region? They're like, well, we've got a tool. But by now, 700 transactions later, we can also just tell you, you're in Fribourg, you're in Zurich, you're in Winterthur, you're in Funay or Gland, Geneva, Lausanne, you name it. We can tell you, well, look, those are the 5 who are good. And it's always the same, right? In any given zip code, play the game. Go on a real estate portal, you put a zip code, and you find 150 listings, and 90 of those listings are from an agent that has only 1 listing in that zip code and that has their office very far away. And then you've got 30 listings that are from 15 agents who have 2. And then you've got the cream of the crop, right? You've got those 4 or 5 agents who have 3 or more and who are the locals. You want to find those. Never mind if it's 1, 2, 3 or 2, 4, 5, but you want those who have many things within a radius of 5 to 10 kilometers, similar types, similar prices. So this is what we do. And that's how we bring the 3 best ones. Not our 3 buddies, like some other comparison websites, no names, but we will always go for the 3 best ones. And at the start, some of them told us, no, I'm not working with you. But by now, 8 years later, they all found out it's great working with Bestag. Properties in my specialty, I don't drive 2 hours to go do 1 visit. Properties who have been assessed at the right price, challenging, but the right price. And, I don't pay Bestag anything before it's successful. And as a matter of fact, the agent never pays us, because if a property was sold for $1 million and the seller would pay 30K, then they get 2 bills. They get 1 bill from the agent for 21,000, then 1 bill from us for 9,000, example, right? So we take a small share and we take it directly from the seller, and the agent makes a rebate. So it's absolutely transparent. We don't take kickbacks. It's not some sort of a weird smoke and mirrors. Oh, it's kind of free, but it's not free, which I don't like about booking.com, by the way. Because it's kind of free, but it's not free, and the hotel doesn't like you because you came from booking.com, you're not a profitable client. So for us, it's completely transparent, and we're always beholden to the seller because he's paying us.
If people want to find you online, it's bestag.ch, and you have more information on that website, right?
A lot of information, webinar, book, videos.
I think education is key. And, I'm glad you're here as an expert in real estate. Here at Swissquote, we usually emphasize, client empowerment in finance. In real estate, people often feel like overwhelmed. I guess it's the same in finance as well. So how do you give power back to sellers and buyers?
I'm going to first talk about the sellers. And I'm going to put the words of one of our clients. One of our clients told us, did I sell to the best price? Yes, I did. But, it was an old lady and she didn't need the money. But what she liked is that during the entire process, she knew. And quite often, people start a real estate sale and they kind of know this or know that. They've had, they've had a bank evaluation for the renewal of the mortgage 2 years ago, and the bank was obviously trying to minimize and they go like, oh, this is the valuation, and they took it as a given, and they kind of think, oh yeah, now I know enough, but they knew nothing. And the thing that we give back the power is that people know everything. And maybe you remember from tests at uni or in school, you've got those people coming out and say like, yeah, I wrote something on every question. And they're like, and they get the worst of all grades because they just like it kind of reminded me of something. And then you've got my sister who studied medicine. And in the first year, after every exam, she was in tears because she just realized that on question 13, I didn't give the full right answer. She passed her first year of uni with straight 6, the best grade in every single exam, because she knew everything. But when you know so much, know everything, that you realize, every single detail. Well, we try for people to have the feel good of the first person, but to know as much as my sister, right? And this is the empowerment we give. And to buyers, I mean, if you buy from an agent who sells a property that's been evaluated by Bestag, as a rule, it will be the right price. You will not buy at the 15% discount. We're sorry, but it will be the right price. And we're also not advocating trying to sell for 20% too much, because then, what do you gain? You'll list it for 20% too much, be on the market 18 months, and then reconsider. That's also not helping anyone.
Exactly. And also education is key, knowledge as well for any subject. Well, Patrice, thank you so much for all those information. I think I wanted just to ask you maybe one last question, because we live in Switzerland, right? Is real estate still a safe haven in Switzerland?
This is not investment advice.
No,
right?
this is not investment advice, but again, you don't have to go in details, just to know your opinion on that.
I think so, very much so, because unfortunately, in Switzerland, it's extremely difficult to build real estate, get building permits, very difficult, and we have immigration. Every year people come into Switzerland and leave Switzerland. I'm not going to blame it or politicize it, but you just look at the numbers. It basically means every year, if we just want to keep up with that pace, with the evolution of the demographics, we would need to build 30,000 units, and we're not building them. So actually, the housing crisis is only becoming more acute. So there's, it's like, is it good to have something that has like for the foreseeable 10 or 20 years, a very foreseeable sustained demand? Yes, it is. It's not going to crash. Now, my personal advice, again, buy the thing that you really need, and it's always going to be good. But in general, what we saw during COVID and after COVID was a great example of what happened. During COVID, everybody wanted to buy because everybody wanted a little bit more space or move out of the city, get a garden and so on. But no one wanted to sell because old people didn't want to see anyone. And so it was the crisis of there was no product. And suddenly 22, 23, there was product again because COVID was gone. But the rates were up. And the seller said, no, there's just not enough real estate to go around, so we won't go down with the prices. And the volumes went down, but the prices didn't. So it's just, if you have real estate and you can afford to sit on it, there's not going to be a crash. Again, it's not investment advice, but all signs tend to indicate that it's relatively safe.
Well, Patrice, thank you so much for your knowledge and expertise. Again, I will talk about this book, 100,000 francs and more. In French, you have it in different languages. Not
I
yet.
have French and German.
French and German.
It's a little bit my baby, but I have it in French and German. I would have loved to do it in English, but it's so much work.
Yeah, it is so much work. Just in case you speak French or German, you can find the book also on your website, besttag.ch, right?
Yes, and on Amazon.
And on Amazon. Again, thank you so much. You've been listening to Unlocked, presented by Swissquote. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Follow us on social media and check out our YouTube channel for more content. Patrice, thank you so much and see you next time with another episode.
This content is intended for individuals who are familiar with financial markets and instruments and is for information purposes only. The presented idea, including market commentary, market data, and observations, is not a work product of any research department of Swissquote or its affiliates. This material is intended to highlight market action and does not constitute investment, legal, or tax advice. If you are a retail investor or lack experience in trading complex financial products, it is advisable to seek professional advice from a licensed advisor before making any financial decisions. This content is not intended to manipulate the market or encourage any specific financial behavior. Swissquote makes no representation or warranty as to the quality, completeness, accuracy, comprehensiveness, or non-infringement of such content. The views expressed are those of the consultant and are provided for educational purposes only. Any information provided relating to a product or market should not be construed as recommending an investment strategy or transaction. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Swissquote and its employees and representative shall in no event be held liable for any damages or losses arising directly or indirectly from decisions made on the basis of this content. The use of any third-party brands or trademarks is for information only and does not imply endorsement by Swissquote, or that the trademark owner has authorized Swissquote to promote its products or services. Swissquote is the marketing brand for the activities of Swissquote Bank Limited, regulated by FINMA, Swissquote Capital Markets Limited, regulated by SISEC, Swissquote Bank Europe SA, regulated by the CSSF, Swissquote Limited, regulated by the FCA, Swissquote Financial Services Limited, regulated by the Malta Financial Services Authority, Swissquote MEA Limited, regulated by the Dubai Financial Services Authority, Swissquote PTE Limited, regulated by the Monetary Authority of Singapore, Swissquote Asia Limited, licensed by the Hong Kong Securities and Futures Commission, and Swissquote South Africa Limited, supervised by the FSCA. Products and services of Swissquote are only intended for those permitted to receive them under local law. All investments carry a degree of risk. The risk of loss in trading or holding financial instruments can be substantial. The value of financial instruments, including but not limited to stocks, bonds, cryptocurrencies, and other assets, can fluctuate both upwards and downwards. There is a significant risk of financial loss when buying, selling, holding, staking, or investing in these instruments. Swissquote makes no recommendations regarding any specific investment, transaction, or the use of any particular investment strategy. CFDs are complex instruments and come with a high risk of losing money rapidly due to leverage. The vast majority of retail client accounts suffer capital losses when trading in CFDs. You should consider whether you understand how CFDs work and whether you can afford to take the high risk of losing your money. Digital assets are unregulated in most countries and consumer protection rules may not apply. As highly volatile speculative investments, digital assets are not suitable for investors without a high risk tolerance. Make sure you understand each digital asset before you trade. Cryptocurrencies are not considered legal tender in some jurisdictions and are subject to regulatory uncertainties. The use of internet-based systems can involve high risks, including but not limited to fraud, cyber attacks, network and communication failures, as well as identity theft and phishing attacks related to crypto assets.